Okay, so now I have sound. Thank you to Juanita, aka She Spins, for letting me know this. Luckily for me, I didn't look to the side, to the screen for, oh, whatever it's been, 20 minutes? 10? I don't know. I feel terrible now because I've been talking to myself for 10 minutes and now I have to start over. But I tell you what, if you look back through the live shows, this is not the first time I've done this. Let me open up the chat too, because I forget about this constantly. Oh my. I am totally behind with everything. Wow. Oh dear. So yeah, we've got She Spins and TharnsMum. TharnsMum. Welcome to stuff in the chat, and if you're watching, feel free to jump in the chat and say hi. Yeah. Oh dear. Wow. Oh god. See, now I'm just ticked at myself. Oh, so I guess I have to start over now. God. So yeah, there was a whole incident before where my boss was texting me, which you probably saw when I pulled my phone out. I'm working on my. Oh, okay, so wait. Hi, this is Ben from TFC Films and Cinderlife Studios. Welcome to Live Art Hangout 44. Working on the mural and thoughts about my artistic evolution. It's been quiet for the past 12 minutes because I've been talking to nobody. I feel like this instead should have started out like, hi, my name is Ben and I'm a moron. So yeah. So I'm working on the mural. Getting some highlights into my tree layer. And we'll hopefully be working on the water tonight as well. Basically, I just needed another highlighty layer for my trees, and that will be getting going. And I just stepped back and realized this is not a good highlighting layer for my trees. I gotta step back and not be as detailed as I'm being right now. I'm sure it looks fine for you guys, but still, it's more of a pain for me. It's like, great, I screwed that up too. Just turning out to be a fantastic. I'm not sure. Oh. I'm not trying to hide. I'm just stepping back. You can't see it at all. Plus, there's lag, so I say all this and then it doesn't show up for 30 seconds or whatever. I really should be better at this. I've been doing these live shows for what, 2-3 years. I should have this down, and I totally don't. Hold on. Let me see if I can't get the chat thing over in the other window so this doesn't keep happening. I was like, oh crap, it's 7:30. I gotta hurry up and do this. And then I didn't. So yeah. Oh, actually, can I pop out the chat? Because that would be really useful. No, I can't. Thanks. Thanks, YouTube, for doing that. God. Anyway, so hopefully do some better window management on my end here. Things are always a mess for me. It's a lot of things and not a lot of things that I need. Make sure I have the chat open because I will always forget. I will always it. Tharns finding an artist who didn't turn their camera on. That's a very fun classic mistake. They probably weren't paying attention to the comments either. I'm glad I'm at least a little better than that. So anyway, I guess I have to start over again with what I was talking about. So today, again, I want to talk about my sort of artistic growth from about 2010 onward and up until today. I've been doing a lot of thinking recently about how my work has sort of advanced from really sort of simple, plain landscapes into sort of more complex things. I tell you what, at the very least, it put me in a way better mood to mess up like this. So, yeah. So it was about 2010. I think it was right about the time that I put up my first, one of my first bigger tutorials, my first tutorials at all on the channel, and started developing an art channel. Because before that, I was just like, yeah, I've got a YouTube thing, and I'm putting these goofy short films on and everything like that. And I didn't take it seriously, at least until 2012 anyway. But I was doing, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start putting up my paintings and things like that, and do this time-lapse painting thing, and see how that goes. And it's been going good because I've been doing it ever since. But it was sort of a time when being like sort of finishing up college and leaving my learning community in high school. It's like, okay, well, now I'm doing art on my own, and I don't have that direct feedback that I did in high school and the couple of art classes I took in college. Because it's like you have people right there that are saying, something looks off, or they're giving you little pointers and critiques. When you're out of school, there's really no one around to tell you that. You might be sketching somewhere in public and somebody walks by and, wow, that looks really great, but which is definitely an encouragement booster. But it doesn't really help. And so I was at a point where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna keep exploring. I was finding other, YouTube channels, people doing art and things, and really sort of learning on my own. And it was in about, it was early 2012. I don't want to get ahead of myself here, trying to remember what I was talking about. But I was trying to think about how I can start. Well, hold on, wait. I'm saying I don't need to get ahead of myself, and I'm already getting ahead of myself. So I was doing stuff with the channel. It's like, okay, people seem to be liking what I'm putting out. I'm going to do this, take it more seriously, do a video every week. And I think I've been pretty regular these days about putting out 2 a week. But it was it was 2012 that I started to do it, one video a week every Friday. Which is honestly would have been one of the best decisions I would have done to sort of start building the channel. But it also forced me to be more creative on a more regular basis. And I started sketching more. I started doing just more stuff, drawing and just doing more stuff, do stuff. And so it was a lot about just finding that it was basically I was starting to make a shift, both in life and in my art, just trying to, like, how do I be a professional artist, basically? Because no one teaches you that, It's like you might like if you go to an art school, you might get a bit of that or something. But I didn't go to an art school, and I didn't, I didn't do that. It wasn't, I was sort of taking my own route the whole time and being self-taught. And so, like, with the exception of, a couple high school and college classes to kind of get my foundations, but other than, like after that point, it's like no one teaches you to be an artist. No one teaches you how to grow and to develop into an artist. And I was like, okay, I've sold a couple things. Maybe I want to start doing this professionally. And it was fall of 2012, which I set up my online Etsy shop, and I put a few things up there. I didn't sell anything though, and I don't have anything on the shop these days. I just have the prints on Zazzle, which I just started doing. But I basically registered the business and started things, and it was, I guess it was about that summer of 2012 when Mural started doing the art hangouts and live streaming art and things. And at this point, it's like I totally needed that when I got it, because I needed a learning community for art because I didn't have one anymore. I was lacking it, and it was from about, I would say, late 2009 to about mid to early to mid 2012. My work just sucked. I mean, I still have a handful of pieces, not a handful. I still have quite a few pieces from that era actually, but it was just a lot of dry, terrible art. You know, you can go back to the time-lapse paintings on the channel and kind of look at this progression, because you can see it through the course of this painting to this painting to this painting. I was doing a lot of things that were just very like, it's like a sky and like a silhouette landscape. So there's like just a tree in the base of something, and there's like nothing else there, and it's boring. Well, it's boring to me now. It wasn't then, you know. So it's like, well, what can I do to really make my stuff better? And I was like, you know, I love going on DeviantArt and finding these digital artists who do just incredible work and things like that. And I knew I didn't want to go digital because I still, you know, I love my paint. I still do. I never want to give that up, but at the same time, I was like, can I apply these techniques to my acrylic painting? You know, but can I become a traditional digital artist, basically? It's like, I love these, you know, these concept artists, the ones that create these real sort of crazy sci-fi and fantasy landscapes. It's like, I want to do that, but I want to do that with paint, because they do it on the computer. And I don't want to do that on the computer because that would be boring. And I still had a very nasty idea towards digital art at that time too, so I was like, okay, I'll play with digital a bit and start working on really building up my concepts, really creating a landscape rather than just kind of be like, I'm going to make a sky and put a tree in it and call it a painting, because that's, I mean, it's still a painting. It's not like, it's like, oh, that's not a painting. Nope, you don't get to call that a painting. Nope. But it lacked a level of sophistication that I've really been pushing for my work to have now. And so in November 2012, that's right about where I was when I found out I had no sound, by the way. In November of 2012, I did a painting called The Source. And you can check out, there's a time-lapse painting of it and a waterfall water lines tutorial that goes along with that painting as well over on the channel. And I say over on the channel like I'm not on the channel. I'm still on the channel. We're still all here on YouTube. It's just if you go and search for it. Anyway. ADD! So, sitting on this weird thing again. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something more. I was sketching more at this time, really kind of doing little I moved from just doing random things in my sketchbook to doing thumbnails of landscapes, and that was a huge step. I don't know exactly when I started doing that. I think it was probably like, I don't know, sometime in 2012, like we're talking about, but I'm actually not entirely sure. And so I started doing thumbnails, and I was like, okay, I'll do a few thumbnails and then start combining ideas. I was doing studies of digital pieces that I liked, and so I was like, okay, this is a nice workflow. So I did that, and I came up with the idea for the source and painted it. And I was like, I got so far into the painting, I'm like, you know what? I want to put as much like awesome detail into this painting as I possibly can. And so I did, and I finished it, and I was like, this is the best thing I've ever done. Well, up to that point it was anyway. And I was like, I really need to start doing, I had got my liner brush a couple months before that. I think my first liner brush, I should say, because I have gone through at least 3 of them since then. But So I got my, my liner brush, and I was doing a lot more detail stuff. There was a point where I had this sort of realization. It was, and this is stupid for me to say this because it's obvious, and I say it all the time now. I'm like, painting is just an extension of drawing. Like if you don't see painting as an extension of drawing, you're just going to be making a lot of blobs of things. And that's what I was doing. I was making a lot of blobs of things, but I wasn't taking the time to draw with the paintbrush. I was just like, I'm painting. And so when I started looking at it from a drawing perspective, my entire attitude towards creating a painting just completely changed. And it became something, really became what it is today, to this level of understanding of the craft, to say it's just colorful drawing. That's all painting is. It's just colorful drawing. And to do, when you think about it like drawing, you start thinking about the details again. And I spent a lot of time just not listening to other people's advice. I'm like, I'm going to paint, and I'm just going to do it my way, and I will do it my way, and don't listen to anyone. Anyone tells me, and I'll figure it out for myself. That has caused me so much headache and so many problems. I don't recommend you do that, but if you have that attitude, you're not alone. I still kind of have that attitude myself in a lot of ways, but I just wanted to make it my own and do it in such a way that, I don't even know. I feel like I'm trying to make an excuse out of it, and there's no excuse to have those kind of thoughts in terms of making art and learning and things like that. And so, in doing all of this, in starting to make that work, I was like, okay, my pieces from now on need to be this stuff. They need to be more, I don't even know how to say it, more detailed, more interesting, more complex. And so I spent, like after that point, from like all of 2013, I'm like, I want to make my landscapes and my paintings more complex. I didn't really know what that meant. I was just kind of like, yeah, more complex, just more stuff. Put more stuff in them. So the idea of complexity, so I had to think about it a little bit. I'm like, okay, what exactly is a complex landscape? Still sketching, still doing things. This was 2013, so I guess early 2013. And so again, watching and finding more YouTubers and really sort of growing that way, but I don't even know where I am at this point. Mentally, it's so hard to think backwards like this. I'm getting to a really awesome point. The problem is trying to figure out the steps I actually took, because I don't know. I'd probably have to look back through my sketchbooks to actually really think about the progression. And eventually my older sketchbooks during this point in time where I'm talking will be on the second channel for videos, but probably not for another year, so I gotta work around it now. I'm sorry. I am not explaining my life very well at all. So this is more like a memoir. I'm just picking out points in time where lost my train of thought again. I'm just picking out points in time that stick out to me, and then trying to source them with, I think this happened at this point in time. Yeah, that sounds right. So I was doing these things and sketching and starting to do more complex. So one thing is that I noticed in looking at other people's work and studying from them is that one thing is I like dynamic perspectives. Things like low horizon, high horizon. So there was a time where I was trying to do more things with moving the horizon line up and down on the canvas for a while. I still do that. I'm like, I'm going to do a high one. I'm going to do a low one. See what that does. Experiment, play around. I would like to say that my journey through learning and continuing to grow as an artist has been structured, but it's more been wandering blindly through the dark. And every time I run into something, I'm like, is this a good painting? I don't know. Hey, and I could pull out like a little match. I'm like, hey, I think this is a good painting. And then, goofy metaphors. Oh, man. So anyhow, so I was doing more, and it was March of last year. No, I keep wanting to think 2013 was last year. It was 2 years ago. I will keep thinking that it's 2014 through probably about, I don't know, April, by the time I realize what year it is. So anyhow, I was, I was doing, like, 2013 was a great year, I think, for my art in terms of advancing and opportunities and things like that. Because I really started pushing my limits again. I think that's really important to kind of go back and try and do more often. It's like, okay, this is what I'm comfortable with. These are things I like to do. These are the things I would like to do in the future. How can I get from here to here? And how can I take what I already know and apply it to things that I don't know, if that makes any sense. So I think it was 2013, I started doing more rocks. And I like, up to that point, I was doing a lot of trees, lots and lots of trees. Just like every piece I did had a tree in it. And I eventually started changing this to, and a lot of this was reflected on a lot of the art I was looking at, a lot of the, the digital painters and things, and everyone who does just like these epic, like, mountainous landscapes. And I was like, God, I love these. I was like, I should start doing more stuff like this. And so I started putting more big rocks in my paintings, and I still do this. I would like to get back to trees eventually, but a lot of my landscapes from that point onward have been big monolithic rock structures, because it's just like, that's like the epic grand scale of everything. It was just like, yeah, that is great. So further on down the road, 2013, what else happened? I think I also started putting, this might have been 2012 though too, I did a series of pieces, and I still kind of keep them in mind, called the father and son paintings. And they'd be a big epic landscape, and there'd be two little tiny black people. Not black people. That sounds a little terrible. Two tiny people painted little black figures. This is not sounding any better. Anyway, I'm sure you know what I mean. Black paints, basically a little circle and a stick. And that was what I called the people with this. And as soon as I did that, it gave a huge scale to whatever I did. And I still do this because I'm not good at figures. I don't like doing anything with figures or animals or anything like that. I just completely avoid it. That's why I do landscapes. I'm not good at it, and I know I'm not good at it, so I don't practice, which is like the opposite of what you're supposed to do. But so when I started putting all these little people, I just call them little people, in my paintings, all of a sudden this tree in the middle of nowhere became this massive tree in like this huge vast landscape. And I noticed this. I'm like, this is awesome. And part of doing that was like recognizing this. I like these little people that I see in other people's art, and I want to try doing some of this myself. And that's like every major advancement I've made in my paintings is me basically copying someone else and saying, I like that. I want to try and do some of that. There was a lot of work in 2009 and 2010 that were very colorful, very sort of abstract in terms of like washy layers of like watercolor, and a lot of my mixed media stuff that I started doing came out of that era. And it was all this one artist by the name of Lawrence Yang. I was like, I really like what this guy's doing. I want to try something. I don't want to do the same thing, but I want to do something similar. And so being influenced by all the digital artists that I saw, I said, okay, I'm gonna do more like epic landscapes. I'm gonna do epic scapes, not just landscapes, epic scapes. So that was most of 2013, and 2014 was just taking this further. So now we're getting pretty close to today, and why I even wanted to really talk about this today is because I've been doing thinking lately about this sort of evolution in my art from very simple, basic landscapes to some things that are a little more complex, especially with this mural that I'm working on. Granted, I'm working basing this off of a photo I took when I was out in Colorado, but it's been about how do I make things more interesting. I've become a little more patient, and part of it has been patience. I usually don't, like, if I'm spending more than 2 to 3 weeks on a painting, then I'll lose interest in it, and I will never finish that piece. Which is one of the reasons why I've come to work as fast as I do, is because I don't want to lose interest in what I'm doing. And using acrylics helps, because acrylics dry very quickly, and you can't afford to work slowly. So I was like, okay, there's this and that and whatever. And so, God, these trees were looking great, and now they're looking terrible. I'm gonna have to do like another layer, and it's gonna suck. So yeah, so I've been thinking lately. I'm like, okay, so what exactly does that entail? So what has been this evolution in my work? It's sort of been my thoughts, and where do I want to take my work? So a long time ago, like, there have been eras, like, people ask me, oh, what kind of paintings do you do? And I've always said landscapes, but I always try to give it a little twist and say, oh, I do conceptual landscapes, I do illustrative landscapes. None of those were ever really right. Really, I should have said I'm doing amateur landscapes. But I'm to the point now where what I tell people I do in terms of landscapes and what I'm trying to do are the same thing. So I say I make sci-fi and fantasy landscapes, which is both what I'm inspired by and what I do and what I try and do in pretty much every piece that I do. So it's like, yay, I'm consistent for once. It'll probably change in another 5 years. So, who knows what I'll be doing in 5 years in terms of my stuff. Who knows, maybe I'll be doing character work, I don't know. But that's the thing, it's an artistic evolution, it's always changing. So in thinking, all right, sci-fi and fantasy landscapes, that is what I do, and that's what I like to do, because that's what I'm inspired by. And then late last summer, I had the privilege to do an interview with fellow YouTube artist Sycra. Some of you may know his channel. He's an amazing digital artist. Pretty much everything he does puts my stuff to shame. But again, really good. Met him through the YouTube art community here. And I'll go back periodically and sort of rewatch some of the things, because when I was interviewing him, I was paying attention to the questions in the stream and making sure everything was flowing nicely. So like right after I did it, I had to go back and watch it to time code it, but also to actually listen to what he said. Not that I wasn't listening the first time, but it's like you don't catch everything. He's like, okay, he's saying this, I'm gonna ask this next. So when I went back and listened again, there was a question from a viewer that asked about style, and they were like, how do you develop a style? And we talked about two different parts of it, as he said it. The way I always say it is, don't worry about your style, it'll develop naturally. Which is, as he says, that's part of it, but that's not all of it. And I didn't fully understand what he meant until, I would say, in the past few months here. Because it's like if you're more visually minded, a style will develop naturally. Like if you're not thinking about it. And that's kind of what happened with me. I just worked on stuff and made the best artwork that I could make. And one day someone's like, "Hey, I love your style," and I'm like, "Wait, what? I have a style? I was never trying to." It's just what sort of how I worked and things I tried to do, some things I ignored to do or ignored doing. And I was like, okay, so I guess I have a style. And so I was thinking recently, I'm like, you know what? The stuff that I like actually has influenced, my style and my work and everything else like that. And I'm like, okay, so how did that change my work? How did it, how did it evolve, I guess, from being very simple idea. And I always liked doing my own stuff. I never really liked working from a photo, which is ironic because that's what I'm doing right now. But, I still take a lot of liberties, especially with color. I always want to use brighter colors than even exist in nature. I want to make them pop a little bit more. I like that high, heavy contrast. And so one of the things that Sycra talked about, he's like, you have to know what you like to develop your style. And it's like all throughout tonight I've kind of been talking like, I like this, so I'm doing this. And it didn't actually occur to me as being something important. I just kind of did it without thinking about it. And one thing I hate to say this, but it's like I empathize with all of the beginners to find my videos here on the channel and things, because I can't always think backwards enough to when I was there are things that I will overlook mentally that I shouldn't. And it's that idea of knowing what you like. It was one of them. And it's like that was never a thing for me to think about. It's like I don't have to think about what I like because I know what I like. It's like I'm looking at, I like, I was talking before, like, I love just train of thought left the station without me. It's gone. Crap. Knowing what I like. I don't know. I lost it. Somebody remind me, please. Seriously. Crap. I don't know. Crap. No, it'll give me a chance to get further along with these trees here as I try and remember what I was saying. I like things and dynamic landscapes. Oh, man. It's going to drive me insane. Oh, crap. This is how my mind works. I always get too far ahead of myself, and then I have to stop and be like, wait, what was I doing? Crap. How are you guys doing in the comments as I try and remember what the hell I was saying? A lot of people in the comments. Apology 9. Jurian 13. Jurian 13, you're saying people are hung up about style. The whole thing about art is just to make it. Yes, I totally agree with you. There's, I think I did a blog post about style at some point. I don't remember when, probably about a year ago. And that's always kind of bothered me about, there's this trend among young artists of, I want to have this awesome style. And it's like, would you just shut up and just make stuff? Just like, yeah, I would love for my art to look more, for me, I'm talking for me. I would love to make my art style look more illustrative, to do more simple sort of comic book typey things. And I think that's really awesome. But at the same time, it's like, even though that would be nice, and it's like, I can't get there if I don't just do stuff. Like just, as I was saying before, like just shut up and draw stuff. Yeah, so I was looking, we look at influences and things. And I'm like, I like dynamic landscapes. I like um, this. I like that. And like before, recently, I didn't think about the things that I like the way that I like them, or why that I like the thing. Like why? Okay, here's an example. This is kind of the whole point that I'm trying to get to. I like video games. Big surprise, man. We know this. But a lot of people that like games have grown up to be character designers or animators or something. They're like, I like the characters in these games and everything like that. And I thought to myself, because I'm like, you know what? Like, and this is also the level of I can't find a lot of games these days that I actually want to play, because everything's either a shooter or something else. I'm like, where are the fantasy games? Where are the adventure games? So I was thinking about like movies that I like, and I'm like, loved the original like Indiana Jones movies, and I was never into like Star Wars or Star Trek, but I loved sort of these the adventures, not so much sci-fi, but adventure. And a lot of the anime that I've come to watch over the years has been their adventures. They're like, hey, we're gonna go off on some swashbuckling adventure and never go back to our hometown ever. And, I just love that idea, and I'm like, so many people fall in love with the stories and the characters and everything else. I'm like, I think what I love about these things are the worlds, and that's why I do landscapes. And it's like it doesn't it matters, but to me, in my artistic mention of things, I'm not paying attention to the characters as much. I'm not paying attention to the like what they're doing. It's like where did they go? Like what's the adventure they went on, the places they went to, and it's like this is what just like totally drives my work. It's like that's the kind of stuff that I want to make. Is I want to make places that characters would go to. And I've done this. Like if you go to my DeviantArt page, and there's a handful of paintings that people have commented on. It's like, oh, this kind of like this thing, and I get this story in my head when I see this. It's like, yes, that is a successful project. Like that is what I just get totally pumped for, is when people see stories in what I make, and I can be like, yeah, that was a successful project, because I inspired somebody to think about that space. And so, like before, I was like starting to detail my paintings and starting to put more thought into them. It was like, what am I going to do with this? This rock has a story. This tree has a story. This branch comes down in here, and it creates this little grotto where maybe like chipmunks live and stuff. It's like there's all these little sub stories that I'm always thinking about in all these pieces. And that's like the whole point I was trying to make tonight. Totally long-winded. But it's like that is the awesome stuff that I want to do, in whatever painting I do. And I haven't put a painting out in a while recently. I've been sketching just constantly. I've been doing at least a page or two in my sketchbook, and that's my little 5x7, mind you, every day, pretty much since doing the Sketch Everyday project last year. Because I fell in love with sketching every day and just doing more stuff, and just really trying to develop the stories behind my paintings. And it's like that's something I've learned from I guess it was about sometime last year that I found and started listening to the Chris Oatley's stuff, podcasts and different things. And one thing, because he's was a character designer for Disney for a number of years, and so a lot of his stuff is like it's animation, it's story. Like, what is the story your art tells? And my stories are about the little sections of the painting, like the way the grass kind of sits down, and the sun's hitting it this way, so it's going to grow more, and it's getting more water from the lake, so it's going to be greener or something, So there's all these sub stories going on in my mind, and little things I'm thinking about. But so now I got ahead of myself. Story, yes. So it's like between the story that I put into a painting. I also don't usually like to talk about the story I'm putting into a painting because other people can see something totally different. Like somebody can look at one of my paintings and see a completely different story than the one I was thinking of when I worked. But I don't want to taint that. I don't want to say this is what this painting is about because I don't want their story to become irrelevant. So, you know, people are going to look at and find stories in my artwork, and that's great. But I don't, like some people ask, hey, what were you thinking when you did this? And I'm like, I don't want to tell you because I don't want to taint the story that you've developed in your head. I think this is kind of the way that writers do their thing, and they write. Well, when a writer tells a story, I should say a fictional story, so like a novelist would tell a story, they want you to imagine something in your head. And like how the artist pictured, how the author, well, they're both artists, we're all both artists, how the author pictured that character probably is completely different than how you picture that character. Like they say, oh, they have brown eyes and this and that, but it's like the way you see that character, that the author doesn't want to taint that, you know. And so, like as a painter, it's like with the story that I tell, there's going to be some things are going to be the same, the lake and the sky and things and the rocks, but you're going to see a different story than I see. And I don't want to talk about what I see as often because I'm just saying this again. I don't want to taint what you see by telling you what I see. But I still want to try and put as much interesting story and interesting stuff into my compositions. Because when I start thinking about story, then maybe the audience will start thinking about story. You know, people viewing it will start thinking about the stories that they can tell. And I think that's what makes a piece of art interesting. Because you look back through art history, and it's like that's what's made the most interesting pieces of art interesting, is the story and just the stuff that it's intentional, but it's not always intentional. You know, you may not know what the artist was thinking, but it's so interesting because of the story. And that's sort of like the untold visual language that art is. And so that's kind of my point for today, is that like whether you're like just picking up a pencil for the first time, drawing for whatever, puts interesting, tell interesting stories and do interesting stuff with your art. It's like as soon as I realized that in my own stuff, and this has been just in the past couple of years, and I've started to really think about this. It's totally changed my perspective on how I work. My style maybe hasn't evolved quite as quickly, but my understanding of how I work and what I like to do with it is just it's like, it's just awesome. It's hard to clarify and hard to just say, yeah, this is how it is, but I don't know how it is. It's always changing. It's always developing. I'm constantly figuring new things out about how I work and why I work and what I can do next. And it's awesome. So, with all that stuff being said, now I need to take a few drinks of my water because I'm thirsty. I've been talking nonstop for an hour, even though the first 10 minutes of that no one was listening to because the sound wasn't on. But yeah, it's like just, yeah, it's awesome. It gets me excited. If it gets me excited, I think it'll get you excited. And that's kind of what I hope. And I just wanted to share that with you guys tonight because I think it's important for me to share stuff like this. And I didn't know how to do it. I'm like, do I want this to be a separate video or something? I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make this a live show. I'm just going to talk about it, and that'll be it. I just wanted to get that off my chest. I didn't know how to do it, so I did it. So yay. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about all this. I know some of you kind of haven't listening to the whole thing and may have come in a little bit later. If you have a question about what I'm working, feel free to throw that in there too. But like what is your thought on the stuff that you like to make and like what you can do to make it better? Like it's like putting more story, putting more meaning into what you're doing, or is this a totally new thought and I've just blown your mind? You know. And again, so much of this has been coming out of, like, from the time I started doing YouTube regularly, because I started finding more artists. The stuff Mary Doodles has been doing on her second channel. I started watching Will Terrell's stuff about 6 months ago. All the Chris Oatley stuff. Noah Bradley writes in his blog all the time, and I'm on his newsletter. I'm on Twitter, and just. I should also probably note that there was a certain point where I felt like the artists I was involved with, not just. I don't want to say this because like some of them are here in the YouTube art community and everything, but I was stuck at a point where the caliber of artists that I was surrounding myself with, both in terms of inspirations on DeviantArt and everything else, I had a wall where it's like, if I'm the best artist in the room, then who am I learning from? And yes, I can learn from beginners who might say something I never realized, but it's like, who am I learning from? And that, like, it was another one of those moments where it's like, I need to find not just like one or two, and not just like people posting stuff on DeviantArt. I need to like follow artists and connect in a larger community of people that are light years better than I am, but can still teach me stuff at a basic level. And that's what I've been lucky enough to have, both through the YouTube community and through other online communities as well. And having that as a catalyst to drive me to where I am now has been just a huge blessing. And it's just been fantastic. And I hope, as a YouTuber and as someone who paints on a wall like this, that I can be part of that catalyst for you. And at the same time, I'm just rambling and talking to myself here. So yeah, share something in the comments. I want to talk to you guys now. I've had my spiel. I also need to keep working on this. I have all these trees in the front left to do, and then probably a whole other layer of fixing the trees in the front left to do. I want to get to the water tonight too. I've been dying to get to the water. I've got a nice big brush that I want to test out for this. Well, I used it on a different painting before, but I still want to test it out for this. So yeah. Hey, Dee Dee is here in the comments. Welcome. Jurian saying, for me, it's to pick an artist you look up to. Wait, I'm both tired and too excited to read. It sounds terrible. For me, it's to pick it's an artist. It's just, that's why it's not computing in my head. I hate to call out your grammar, but for something that's just like totally backstopped in my brain. For me, it's you pick an artist to look up to and try to get to that level in terms of quality over quantity. That is so freaking true. There was a point, I don't know what year it was, I've been trying to source all this, but I don't know, where I was like, if I could work more but produce less, then I'm doing something right. It's like, it's not about how many paintings you print out, it's about like what do you like, how much time, and well, not even how much time. It's like, yeah, it's about the quality and things that you're putting in. I've got a live show in the works right now about craftsmanship and why that's really, really important, and what it is exactly, because I actually don't know if I have a solid answer myself. I don't even know if the dictionary definition is good enough. At least for not what I'm talking about, but like there's been this push that I've had for artistic craftsmanship, which is sort of like how, for me, it's been how much planning work I do before I start a painting. Like, am I taking this idea for a painting, and rather than just taking this idea and throwing it on the canvas and hoping it works, I'm taking this idea and doing it again and doing it again and beating it and hitting it, tearing it to shreds, and will this work? Will this work? Will this work? Yes? Okay, now I can paint it. Rather than just being like, here's an idea. Blech. You know. So it's kind of been a bit of a joyous struggle, I guess. Gotta keep working on this. So, story about this mural. Back when I did the big 5-hour live stream on it, I was like, I really wanted to finish this before the end of 2014, and I didn't. So now I have to put 2 years as for my date when I sign in the corner, and I'm going to hate myself when I have to do that, because I'm like, I slacked off so much. I started the piece, and I just didn't work on it. And that was not the thing to do. But because I didn't have a deadline, I wasn't like, yeah, I want to get this done by here, and this is the reason why. And part of the reason why I wanted to work on it now, though, is because there's going to be a painting process video for this entire mural. And I started filming it with my old camera. And the problem with that now is, now I have a nice HD camera, and I still have to finish this painting process video with the old, it's standard depth, it's 480p was the old camera. So it's gonna be a new video, but it's gonna look crappy because it's gonna have the old camera. And I'm still like, wasn't like gonna suddenly switch halfway through the video to better quality. I'm like, no, I want it to be consistent. So there's going to be a video sometime this year that doesn't look as good as all the recent stuff I've been doing. Now it's like, well, I should finish this. So that's sort of been my motivation behind this and finishing it. And everything was well. That, and if you look back through the old videos to the other murals that was here before, it was a sunset piece, and it was all dark. And I was like, I really want to paint over this thing. I did the old mural I did in 2010. And I was like, I can do so much better than this. I totally want to just do this over again. I don't know if this one will get repainted in like 3 years, but I'm already way more happy with it now than I was the old one. So at least I can be happy about that. The problem is I'm happy with what I'm doing with the trees now, but with all these little, like, this looks like grass. And I didn't need to do that there. And so now I have to go. I'm going to probably go back with like this on basically on top of a almost black color. So I'm going to come back in with a mid-tone and do some other stuff with it. I should check on the comments because I haven't in quite a while there. I can probably just do like a transition color, just mix them black, and I'm almost out of this color too. I have to remake some. But I'll probably just do a transition color between these, so it's not just that black and bright. So it's a little easier on the eyes. I did want to make this piece originally a little more realistic, at least than a lot of my other stuff. So I have to play with some duller colors a little bit and work it into this. But yeah, I should really read through more comments because I know there's more of them than I'm not paying attention as usual. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Looking better. I gotta mix up some more paint. Any of you guys from the art community in the comments that want to jump into the Hangout, feel free. Apology89 you might know as being Lucas from the other live shows that I've been doing. I've been helping him out with some art assignments. He says he feels more concerned with the things in drawings and paintings that he's been doing. And I would say, good. That sounds terrible and insensitive, but it's kind of helping out. It's kind of important. Now you get my unsolicited advice. I can be more vague and honest about doing stuff without hurting your feelings. Not that I'm worried about that on a daily basis, but yeah, I can just say stuff about what I'm doing and take it with a grain of salt, I guess. So yeah, I gotta mix up some more paint here. A lot of my piles are starting to dry, so I don't know. I gotta like a film on all my blobs of paint I put down. So I gotta grab a little more of all of them. May have to go get the actual paint in the. Might have to switch out for a new palette, actually. Yeah, I might do that. Let's bring my paint over here. I have to put my headphones down to go do this stuff, so I will be right back. I think all I need is that yellow. So yeah, I've got some ideas for upcoming paintings. I actually have quite a lot of ideas for upcoming paintings. I just have to sit down and do a Photoshop concept for one of them and actually get around to doing it, which I kind of have lately. I don't know. It's just like I've wanted to paint stuff, but I just haven't felt like I've got the right idea yet. And I guess that's kind of common with me. It's like I want it to be a good painting, but at the same time, it's like I'm just not feeling the composition. So I was working on one concept for which, again, is on DeviantArt. It's called "I Must Be Dreaming," and I actually started the painting, and then I was like, "Oh, this is turning out terrible. I'm not going to do this." Ooh, I need to plug my laptop in. Give me 1 second. Okay, I was like half power, and I just doing this hangout just like totally tanked the battery. Though I guess that's understandable, since I've got my headphones and my headset rather, and the webcam and everything else that I'm trying to run. So yeah, check back around for some of these things. So if you're just joining in, I spent the first bit of this hangout talking a bit about my own artistic journey from doing very simple landscapes to doing more fantasy and sci-fi landscapes, as I've been calling them, and why that's so important, and about how much I love adventure games and movies and how that's sort of found its way into my work. And now I'm just kind of talking to you guys in the comments, seeing your thoughts on all this and everything else as I continue to work on the mural. So my progress from last month, as well as my progress today, still won't show up in a video on the channel for a while. I've got a couple more videos that I recorded back in December that you guys will be getting in the next couple weeks. But after that, I think it would be end of this month, you'll start seeing this progress in the endings of a lot of the videos I've been doing and a lot of the videos I'll be releasing. So I do want to bring up one project that I actually thought about today, and I've got 2 projects that I can't talk about yet, and I hate to even say that much because it sounds like too much of a teaser. Like, oh, why do you even tell us this? Why do you even tell us you're doing something awesome and then not be able to talk about it? But it's true. I mean, I've got a couple of projects for later this year, which are going to be really awesome, but I can't talk about them. But there is one that I can talk about because it's something that I've kind of thought about doing off and on and didn't really know how to do it or how to release it, rather, until today. I guess today I kind of had this revelation of I should do this. I should do it this way. So this thing that I've been talking about vaguely is that a lot of artists put out, or rather publish, books of their sketches. And lost my train of thought again. So artists publish books of their sketches, and I'm like, I have a lot of sketches that I'm really proud of, and a lot of those things that I've been doing in my sketchbooks recently, like in my mind, the idea, like this would be my ideal sketchbook, and I have a lot of these really awesome drawings in it. A lot of what I've been doing in the past year or so, like my sketchbooks look like my ideal sketchbooks. Like I've reached this level of like, man, this is awesome, and everything all these sketches I'm doing look great, and even the ones that don't look great look great. And I'm just like pumped with all the stuff I've been doing in my sketchbook, and a lot of that has not made it online. It's just sort of been my own thing, and I've occasionally have been posting a little bit on DeviantArt or Twitter, where I'm like, hey, this is a page for my sketchbooks that I've been doing, but for the most part, I haven't really been showing that. And so you have a lot of artists that post their sketchbooks, or not post their sketchbooks, but do printings of them, or do printings of versions. And I'm like, I want to more or less give you guys a chance to see some of my sketches digitally that aren't just here. I posted this picture. So sometime this year, I want to compile and release a sort of an ebook of my sketches. And probably a lot of things I put out for free, I'm probably going to release that on my website for maybe like a $2 download. So just something like tiny, minuscule amount of money for you to send me for this if you're interested in it. And then it'll probably be, I would say at least 50 pages worth of stuff. And then maybe like a few pages and then a little paragraph where I talk about my sketches and everything else like that. But yeah, it's like that is something that I totally want to do for you guys this year. I know like a lot of the artists that put out their sketchbooks, they're like, oh, buy this thing that's $20-$30, and it's like, they're just sketches, man, come on. So if I don't want to say if, I should say when I release my sort of volume 1 of sketches, it'll be a $2 download. It may be $2. I don't know. I'm not set on the price yet. There will be a price, but it will be, I guarantee you, under $10 for it. I don't know the exact how much I'm going to charge exactly yet, but it'll be a quick little download, and then you can have a bunch of my sketches to inspire you and something to look through. So yeah, that is one one of the awesome things I've got coming up for this year. There are several, but again, I can't talk about them yet. So yeah, did want to bring that up. Hopefully give you guys a little, hopefully that's enough of a teaser to get you guys excited and perhaps spread the word. And in case I forget to bring it up or forget to work on it, you guys can remind me, hey, when's this coming out? Crap, I gotta work on that. So yeah. It's also one more thing I have to add into my calendar to work on. I've been trying to be more, like today I was like, I should really start doing more with my calendar and actually say, okay, I need to work on this stuff this day, and no excuses, just shut up and work on it. Pretty much. Because I've been slacking a lot recently, if it hasn't already been kind of obvious. With the exception of the Majora's Mask digital painting that I just put up Friday, which I'm very happy with the way that turned out. Like I surprised myself working on that project. I'm like, I'm gonna do a full digital painting because one, I don't do that like ever, and two, because I'm like, I think this would be interesting to do. It's an interesting idea, but I felt better about doing it digitally than I did in like water or something like that. I now know some of it you're probably like, oh, you should have done it in watercolor. Yeah, I saw a question from one of you in the comments just a bit ago. I want to finish a couple more trees first, though, before I get to that. No, not finish a tree, but do a few more trees, I should say. Oh, I'm so getting lazy with these. I wanted to work on the water so bad today, and I forgot I still had to do this. I probably could have worked on the water, but I want to get this done first. I do have to record a small segment of one of these trees for the video, but yeah, I should get a segment of me working on a section here, and I think I'll answer that question while I'm moving the cameras around. TharnsMum asking just a technique question. Where do you start painting? Skyline, ground level, or your stone mountains? Back to front. So yeah, it's less of a technique thing and more of it makes everything easier to do it back to front, because then you're not trying to do like, oh, I got to do this section of sky that's like this big in between all these tree branches. That is a nightmare. Yeah, so it's back to front. So it's sky, then like whatever the next layer up is. So with all the trees were probably, I don't know, probably about a dozen pairs of trees in here. Ugh, nightmare. There is the 5-hour live stream when I was working on this mural, and I actually muted the mic for most of it since I was playing music and a variety of things at the same time, so I like checked in and said, oh, I'm gonna talk for a little while. It's not a regular video on the channel. You can't search for it. It's unlisted. I've been meaning to get a permanent link of it up over to the website and say, click here to watch that, but it doesn't show up if you just search through the videos. It doesn't show up. I don't know if I'm going to change that or not, but it wasn't my intention to even keep it on the channel at all. But yeah. So that's that. Menu. See what, since I came back to do, had to record a bit of it last month when I worked on this. Been playing with the old camera a little bit since getting the new one. I've come to realize how terrible the lens for the old camera is. It is terrible. It's small. It's there, and it's first time I opened it up after using the new camera, I was like, man, this thing really sucks. But yeah, so work from back to front if you can, as much as possible. And especially for doing portraits, you should always do the background first. Like before you even start working on the figure, do the background first. Because if you don't, then you have sort of this weird outliney thing around like the head or the figure, and it just looks weird. So if you're someone who does portraits and you notice that, like, oh, I have this weird look. It looks like the paint's going like this and creating a halo around the figure. It's because you didn't paint the background first. And many artists won't even, like, if they do a sketch of the figure, they'll paint the entire background and then do a sketch of the figure. They don't want to have to work around their lines that way. And I can easily recommend doing that, even though I don't do portraits, but I've done them in the past for classes and things. And yeah, it's work from back to front. So yeah. So hopefully I can get these trees done. At least the main layer. Like when I do the mid-tone layer, it's going to take like probably 10 minutes all the way across. But getting this first highlighty section, I have to be a little more particular with. I don't know why I'm doing it this way. I really should. I'm trying to come in like backwards and from the top. It's making things so much harder on me. I guess because I'm trying to get that texture in there. So now I'm losing it. My dark edge. Just totally lost that dark edge when I did that. I had this mentality. I'm like, I'm going to do water. Oh, I have to do trees. I have to say, though, doing this, or rather working on this piece, has definitely given me the tree fix that I needed. I was like, oh, I should do more trees. And I did this. And I'm like, okay, that's enough trees. Jesus. Like I went overboard with this. I've totally regretted choosing this painting, or this picture to paint. Just because, like, well, I was just like, what the hell was I thinking? I'm like, I'm gonna pick something that's gonna be challenging for me. And I was like working on this. I'm like, why? What the hell was I thinking? Why am I doing this? Well, it's too late now. I'm working on it. Might as well finish it. Remaining committed to my course of action. I feel like this is an adult moment. Like, oh, I gotta take responsibility for this crap. I could have stopped painting this, and now I have to finish it. Yeah, that's good for the video segment. Can let that go for a while now. Talking about just plain backgrounds for portraits. Oh, okay. I agree. a lot of portraits, plain backgrounds are good, but not just a solid color. Like do something, get like a sponge and do like a marbly thing, but just like a plain color. It's just like, ugh. Like even in like a presidential portrait, you'll get like that spotlight photographed background gradient thing where it's light gray in the middle and dark gray on the outside. But just one color. That is visually disturbing to me. I had an art teacher in high school who he's been talking about. I follow him on Twitter, and he's doing some sort of project for our local PBS station. And as soon as it becomes more concrete and he actually tells us what the hell it is, I'm going to share it because he's got some amazing art. But there was I took one of the classes I took with him. He talked about doing complex colors and knowing what a complex color is. And it took me a while to actually figure it out because he had to explain it a few times before it clicked. And I think I've talked about this briefly, but on the channel before, but just for different names. It's like the complex colors. It's like he's like, oh, just add more different colors to what you're working on. It's like, well, no, now you've made mud. Don't make mud, or rather, make beautiful mud. I'm like, what the hell is beautiful mud? And it's this idea of if you're using a lot of just like straight out of the tube colors, it can be a bit boring. And this is actually something I have to remind myself not to do as often, because like part of doing that has been somewhat stylistic for me. But it's like mix. If it was just one other color, just mix your colors. Don't just be like, I'm gonna get a tube of this color and a slight difference in the color of like having a yellowish green color and have a regular green color, and then have like a reddish green color. Like let's just have like all these greens rather than just one green and then like one of whatever other colors. Now, granted, I shouldn't be talking because I have 2 greens and 4 reds and whatever else. But for those are for different reasons. But it's not relying on them as, oh, this shade of this color and this shade of another color because I don't feel like mixing it. It's like, no, mix it. It's always better to make a color than to just buy a tube of it. You know, if that's possible, you can't be like, I'm going to make red. No, you can't. Red's already red. But like when you're mixing something and like this yellow green color that I use in my trees and things a lot, it's usually it's hooker's green, cadmium yellow, and yellow ochre. It's sitting on the palette. I'm like, what's the name of this color? I'll know if I look at it. I shouldn't look at it. I'm going to look at it. But yeah. So that's normally what this color is. This one's a little bit more different. I added some cerulean blue to it and a little bit of... I didn't add the red into this. But yeah, I add a little bit more blue into this to keep it a little greener. But yeah. So yeah, mix your colors. Just freaking mix your colors. And I've been trying to figure out how to turn this into a video tutorial, and I don't know yet. I still haven't figured it out, but the idea of visualizing and matching colors, because I don't know how I do it, but I know I can do it really well. Like if you give me something like, hey, match this color, I can do it. Like within... Like I can get it. Like it's not. I can't do absolutely perfect match, but I can get really freaking close. Because I can look at something and say, "Oh, there's blue in that green," or "Oh, there's this color in it," and I know what colors on my palette. Like, "Oh, I should add some red to this to make it that color." You know, I don't know how to teach that. I haven't figured it out yet. When I do, there will be a tutorial on it on the channel. But if you have any ideas, let me know. I know some of you are a little more experienced in painting than I am. You've been doing it longer. I love trying to brag to people. I've been painting for 15 years, and they're like, I've been painting for 30. I'm like, thanks. I try and use it as bragging rights, but it doesn't always work. What was crazy is when the other artist interview I did last year with James Gettner, he's like, I've been painting for over 50 years. I'm like, oh, you've been painting for twice as long as I've been alive. That's comforting. Takes all my confidence and throws it out the window. Then it brings it right back when he's like, man, you're really good. And I'm like, flattery. Oh, man. Artistic struggles. Artistic first world problems, maybe? If anyone's watching from a poorer country, I'm sorry, because that sounded terrible. No, I think that would happen with any artist from any economic background. It's just that, oh man, you're so much better than me. And then if someone's better than you that tells you you're good, you're like, really? Because what? Like, you are light years better than me and you actually like my work. And it's like, yeah? Still, I still can't figure that out. Maybe someone in the comments can explain it to me. Or maybe you'll just let me be dumbfounded and strange because it's hilarious. Huh. Ben's making weird noises. I'll laugh at him. Because YouTube. Hey, and don't get me wrong, I have no problem with you guys laughing at me. If I did, I wouldn't be doing this. Suddenly I'm feeling good about these trees again. I wasn't for a really long time. Now I'm like, these don't look so bad. Well, the ones I'm doing now don't look so bad. These look terrible. Aren't you happy with your work, Ben? Because I know how terrible I am. I know you guys don't think I'm terrible, but otherwise you wouldn't be here, I guess. But I think that's a problem with every artist. Like, you see everything you're doing wrong sometimes while you're working on it. And you're the only one who sees it, usually. Because you're like, that's not what I was trying to do, but I guess it looks all right. When you're talking to someone about your work, you shut up and you let them enjoy it. It's like what I was saying before. Don't pollute what they think about your work with what you think about your work. What do you think about this painting you did? Oh, it sucks. What about this one? That one sucks. This one? I hate that one too. I think there was a question like that on the DeviantArt forum a while back, and it was like, do you like your work? And everyone's like, nah, not really. I do this, I paint the stuff that I like, but I don't like what I do. I mean, I like what I do, I don't love it. I would say, put it this way, I'm not inspired by myself. Which I think is why I find it so strange that other people are inspired by me. I mean, I'm flattered. I'm very appreciative, for all of my fans and for all you guys watching, but I don't get it. That sounds terrible, but yeah. I mean, I have my own level of confidence, but it's like, I don't understand why you people like me. because I hate myself. But yeah, it's like I would not be inspired by my own artwork, but I guess that's why I make the stuff that I do, because I'm inspired by other people. It's both a creative issue and I think somewhat a nerd issue of this. You're kind of afraid. It's what they call imposter syndrome. It's this level of, at some point someone's going to go, oh, I see, you're just a fake or something, and then you go, ah, you know, which, you know, I'm not, but and other people aren't, you know. It's like, but like everyone has this idea of someone's going to see it, and then like everything you've worked for is going to be over. It's a bit of an irrational fear, but yeah. All right. I can add my layer of fixing stuff, and then I can finally do the water. Oh man, time for a break. What's up with you guys in the comments? Let's see. You think people that pay you don't seem to mind the slow backgrounds. Well, that's good. Well, that's also a level of you know what you're doing, but they don't know what you're doing. It's like, yeah, they paid me and everything, and that's because that's what they, well, I mean, obviously it's very different with commissioned work. If you're working, you know, for a client, then you're doing what they want, not necessarily what you want, and that's totally understandable. But yeah. Apology saying I do it based around the colors used in the rest of the portrait to have the background colors complement each other. That is what you're supposed to do. Yay! I'm like jumping up and down with excitement because it's like, yeah, that's the thing. I'm not gonna be able to talk tomorrow. My throat's already bothering me. Let's see. What else do we have? Deity, but you work on paper, yeah. That kind of changes things a little bit, especially with how much you can put on the paper, depending on the paper you're using. Speaking of paper, I hate to be even more distracted from this, but I believe it's Arches, the people who do the fancy watercolor paper, just started making what they're calling oil paper, which is paper for oil paints. And an artist friend of mine picked some of it up. I don't know if it was the Arches stuff or not, but I think she picked some of it up when we were at the art store. I'll have to ask how that's going, if she's used it yet, because that was like that intrigued me. Like, oh, this is a new kind of paper that I don't know anything about and things. And it could be worth looking into, especially I feel like it would work really well for acrylics too, but they're calling it oil paper anyway. There's also canvas paper, which I've tried, and that stuff's really great too, especially for acrylics. Tinting the canvas. Tinting the canvas is fun. I do like working on tinted canvases. I've done a few in painting process videos and time-lapse paintings over the years. I'm sure you can find them, but I think one of the most recent ones was painting was, I think it was called In the Roots. I think I started on like a greenish mint colored canvas. That was fun. Just tinting the gesso and stuff and such. Dee talking about seeing flaws. Turn it upside down. You'll see it. You'll see the flaws immediately. There's actually that technique with learning to do portraits, where you turn the picture you're working from upside down and draw it, so you're not focusing on, oh, it's a nose, or oh, it's a whatever, or an eye or a mouth, and you're just looking at shapes. But yeah, it's like, I'm gonna turn this upside down, and wow, that looks terrible. I feel like I should try that with a lot of my paintings. I feel like a lot of them would look even worse. Like I'm mentally doing it on all of them, and it's like, oh god, that looks terrible. You guys are silly. Art before the internet age. That's totally true. Which I think that's sort of an important distinction to make, because a lot of people now are growing up with the internet and having that, and so many of us there is a desire and I guess a bit of a curse. You know what? I need a secondary palette. Hold on. Anyway, shoot, I was saying something. Oh yeah, art before the internet. Like there is a sort of inbred. Okay, inbred sounds terrible. Ingrained is the word I was looking for. Sort of desire for a lot of artists now to just share stuff. Oh, everything I do, I have to share it. No, you don't. You're still allowed to make art for yourself. You can be a hobbyist. You don't have to be a professional. And as much as I encourage other people to start their own art channels, you don't have to be a YouTube artist either. It's okay. You can just work on stuff and be inspired by other people. You don't have to share stuff. It's like, yeah, if you want to be a professional artist, you have to you want your own website, or at the very least you'll want a portfolio website or a blog or something. But there is a level of, I have to share stuff. No, you don't. You don't have to share stuff. It's okay. You're allowed to not share stuff, and no one will hold it against you. Especially for beginning artists, they're like, oh, I have to share all this stuff I'm doing. No, you don't. Just work on it. Just make the stuff that you want to make. Work on the stuff that you like, and don't worry about it. Share it with people if you want the critiques and the feedback, but you don't have to. Not everyone has to have an online presence. And it's. I think kind of what you were getting at, Dee, there, where it's like you don't have to be an internet person to make art. You know, you can do it on your own without, you know, worrying about all this extra stuff. I need more blue. You know, I think even if you do sort of get to this professional level someday, if you're not starting out by just making art for yourself, then you're not going to enjoy making art for other people. It's again, it's sort of back, like it's the do what you like and just draw stuff. And you could quote me on that. Do what you like and just draw stuff. But yeah, it's. See, now I have to think for a second. And try not to have my throat dry up. Nice to have a bit of water while I'm working. But yep, lost my train of thought. Again. But yeah, it's like, do you, like you make art because you like sharing your work? Yeah, I love sharing my work. I love showing people stuff. I think though, at least for me, I should say this is at least for me anyway, because I know other people have different opinions on, you know, why they're an artist, but like primarily, I'm an artist for myself. If YouTube didn't exist, well, one, I wouldn't be doing videos, but I would still be painting because I like to do it, and I'm an artist because I like being an artist, and partially because I have to be an artist. I don't know what else I would be if I wasn't, you know, making stuff. I like making stuff, even if it's not a painting. I like making stuff, and I, you know, write stories from time to time, or, you know, whatever, plink on the guitar for an hour or whatever. I just like making stuff, and because it's like it's sort of a selfish endeavor to make things for yourself. But I think you kind of have to have that first, and then once you make things for yourself long enough, you're like, I'm gonna start showing people, because if I like making stuff and other people like making stuff, maybe we can enjoy making stuff together. And that's sort of like the heart of collaboration. But blue, let's break the red out. Oh, that looks pretty good. A little black. That's not bad. Back to the yellow, which I'm running out of again. That's sort of a brown. I don't know if I want sort of a brown though. Yeah, maybe I kind of do. Green. Just keep mixing in color until you're happy. I'll get a little more yellow on my palette. Kind of want it to be a darker color, not brown, but not totally like green either. I'm like sitting on my, crouching down, and it's hurting my legs. I'm like, why does this hurt? I'm like, oh, because I'm not sitting or standing normally. it would be smart if I could find a nice balance and not hurt myself while painting, because that I think that would be like an all-time low. How'd you hurt yourself? I was painting. What? All right. Oh, you old people talking about how art used to be. I'm sorry, that was mean. Oh, it's a personal need. When some people ask me like, oh, why are you an artist? Why do you like painting and like doing things? I'm like, because I have to. It's like breathing. This is gonna sound really morbid and creepy, but this is how I express my desire to make art. Is if you locked me in a room where I like couldn't like didn't give me any writing utensils or anything, just like basically threw me in a prison cell more or less, I would have either be scratching on the walls or like biting my thumb and painting and like drawing with it. It's like I would find a way to make stuff. It's like we're gonna take all of your ability to do stuff away. It's like nope, I will find a freaking way. Because you get ideas in your head, just gotta get them out. Gotta get them out. That sounds really creepy. I'm sorry. All right, let's clean this up a bit. I think when I started doing all these branches and things, I was thinking too hard, which sounds kind of weird. But it's like I was, or not too hard, but too much. I was thinking too much, and it was like distracting me from what and how I should be painting, which is partially why some of this looks terrible. I'm still going to go back in and like detail stuff once I get all the. When I'm like, yeah, the mountains are done, the trees are done. Like I'll say like the water's done, but I'll still be like going back in with a really small brush and detailing stuff at the very end. So even if it's not 100% where I want it to be, I'm still going to come back and work on stuff later. Oh, that looks much better. Actually, I have to come back with another highlight over top of this, though. But this is definitely going to clean up where I need to be for everything else. Basically, I was having some issues with matching the original photo and getting my color and values right, because they weren't. That was my biggest concern with this last section of trees. I had a lot of mismatched value. Actually, probably won't even need to record this segment, which is good. At least not for the final video. Yep. Definitely looking better here. Oh, yeah. Just kind of like I stepped back a little bit, and I was just like, this looks way better. Let me step back a little further here. Oh, yeah. That's blowing my own mind. Dee Dee's asking, did you say water was going to be in the foreground? Yes, it's a lake. I should tilt the camera a bit. Well, you can kind of see it. But I'll tilt down again a bit to where I'm actually kind of working. There. So, yeah, it's going to be a project all its own because most of the lake, you're not getting a strong reflection of the sky. So there's not going to be a lot of blue down here. There's going to be a lot of earth tones, and then you're going to have all these little ripply, shiny white parts, which is going to be a nightmare to do. But I'm also really looking forward to it at the same time. So this is a rock sitting in the water, which is just a base filler kind of color right now. And up to about where this rock is, it's a lot of just kind of incoherent shapes and forms. And down here, you're going to get a lot more smaller rocks showing underneath the water, which it's partially why like this piece is a nightmare. Why did I decide to do this? But I'm like, yeah, this looks simple. No. Yeah. And also, one thing I noticed, especially in my my photo reference, is you also don't see a lot of a direct reflection from the trees either. So that actually does help significantly. So it's going to be more just I put a little bit of the black section in here where the trees were sort of reflecting down a little bit, but you're not going to see much at all in terms of where and what the color of the trees and the reflections are there. So I should probably screen share the photo that I'm working from. I should definitely do that. So you guys can see that. Just give me a minute to finish my browns, and I will be coming back over with showing you the reference. I was trying to be a lot more particular with it when I started. I mean, like, I have to make this look as close to the photograph as possible. And I just started running into brick wall after brick wall, and I'm like, you know what? It's a reference. I don't have to be perfect. With artistic license, I can be a little more lenient with it. I was doing the rocks, and I kept redoing the rocks and redoing the rocks and redoing the rocks because I wasn't happy enough with how it looked with the original image. And as soon as I stopped trying to make it exact, it just went so much smoother for me. And I'm like, now I'm happy with the rocks. Now I'll work on the trees, and now I'll work on this. So it helped significantly, just in my own thought processes. I am beating the hell out of this brush. It's an older fan brush. And it is totally just starting to die. It's not holding as much pain as it used to, and I'm just totally abusing this brush. But it's had a long run. I think I got this in college, so it's probably looking at least at least 5 years old on this brush, possibly longer. Kind of just using a little bit less of the brown here now, since I started doing a little better with my trees once I got to this point. So I actually don't need as much. But I'll still need a little bit to unify, because like I can't just leave it with no brown here now, because I don't have this like, it'll look too different. So I still have to use it all the way across to unify the piece. But just a little more sparingly. Looks pretty good. Yeah, remember how before I was thinking this looks terrible. It doesn't look so terrible anymore. I'm back to feeling more confident again. I think the hardest thing with it, because I haven't worked on it on a regular basis, as my skills have slowly improved, it's like, why didn't I do that on that part of the painting? So there's like, as you go through the layers, it's like I'm getting better. So there's going to be a slight issue with that on, like, when I actually call this finished. Of me being like, yeah, I did it throughout the course of like an entire year. So things are a little bit more varied in terms of brush work and color usage and things. That looks much, much better. Bring this down in here. Yep, significantly better than where we were. I guess it would be about an hour ago. I've been streaming for a while now. I started at 7:30. It's now 9:30, so it's been 2 hours. I actually didn't think I'd be streaming this long. But yeah, that's what it's like when I start painting something. I just totally lose track of time. It all goes away. If you've been joining me since roughly the beginning, thank you for sticking around this long. If you've been joining since about halfway through, also thank you. If you're still here, well, thank you again. I don't know how much longer I'm going to stream for. I'm definitely going to keep working. Probably, I get the rate I'm going, I'll probably be working through midnight, but I definitely won't be streaming this long. I don't want to say I'm starting to wrap this up, because I still want to show you how I'm going to work on the water. That's part of one of me wanting to do this live stream, of showing the process and things. But yeah. So a couple other things with the trees, and then we can actually start on some water. I'm still not going to be doing a ton of stuff with the water. Basically, I'm getting this section from about the rock up of a lot of those base notes. Oh, I want the reference photo. Jeez, here I am forgetting. Yeah. Let's see. What else we got in the comments here?
Jurgen saying flying dragon? Yes or no? I can't. I did sort of promise my parents that I wasn't going to make this a weird painting, so I'm not allowed to do like magical things and a lot of the stuff that I like in here. It has to be just a landscape, which sucks. Which is also possibly the reason why I haven't been working on this as much. But a flying dragon would really make this painting great. I agree. I'm not real good at dragons though. I would need like probably 80 different reference photos just to draw a dragon that I would feel worth putting into this painting. GD, the light on the top of the left mountain is good. Oh, thank you. That took a while to kind of get that right. Oh, yeah. So as I'm talking, I keep forgetting to show my reference photo. I'm sorry. Screen share. So this is my reference photo for the mural that I'm working on. It's, again, the color, I'm using much brighter colors, as I always do, than the original source image. But yeah, and the photo itself I took while I was vacationing in Colorado a couple years ago. I guess 2012, I think that was. It sounds right. Yeah, no? I feel like, yeah, I feel like it was 2012 that I was on that trip. But yeah, so I took this. It's called Bear Lake, B-E-A-R, Bear Lake, in Colorado, and really, really awesome. Like the scope. I have a few other pictures of this. I think that's a panoramic shot of this as well. You just, but even between my painting and the photo, you just do not get the scope and scale of this until you actually start thinking about the trees, about how every single one of those is like a massive, you know, like 100-foot pine tree, at least 100-foot probably. Like big, like when you think a big giant pine tree, every single one of those is a big giant pine tree. So even the ones like way up by the mountain in the back, they're a big giant pine tree. So it's like that's like your only thought in terms of scale. But yeah, that's my reference photo anyway. And this is my version with the grid, which is what I've been using for that. And so I can zoom in with the water. And this is technically a gridded out thing. You can't really see the lines anymore on the wall. I mean, I can see them in my first washy layers of the water, but everything else, it's pretty much completely covered up. So it's been there. I gotta switch that back off. All right. So yeah. So my version versus the photo. Let's see. You've messed up a few brushes for hair. Yeah, I get the feeling like if you do portraits a lot and do more hair, then you can very easily just go totally destroy brushes for that. I think anything textured, anything that you're like really tapping and pushing, those brushes are going to wear down like crazy. Yeah, the grid. The grid. I feel like for a piece of this size, I had to. Like there was no way that I could get my proportions right for this without doing the grid. Also, I was going to have a grid a tutorial on the channel for the grid method. The video I've decided to scrap because the project I was doing the grid method for, I screwed up for about an hour and a half, just like, my math is wrong. My math is still wrong. This isn't working. Why is my math wrong? And basically, it was an entire video of me saying, I'm terrible at math. So I will probably reshoot the video and do another one later this year. But the one that I did, it's like it did not translate well because, well, one, because I was using a page out of my sketchbook, and my sketchbook was 5x7, and 7 is a prime number, and you can't really translate 7 into like I was trying to translate a 5x7 thing into a 16x20, and it didn't work. You couldn't scale. I couldn't scale it even like in halves or quarters or anything. It did not work. I was able to manage it. I did some of it in centimeters and some of it in inches just to get it to be sort of right, but it was a nightmare. Yeah. So, but yeah, I kind of was like, okay, I have to grid this. I mean, a piece of this scale, and working from such a small photo, I had to grid it. Tharns, you're saying that you enjoy being able to hear me. I'm guessing that means you watched at least part of the 5.5 hour live stream, to which I'd say, awesome. I don't even know how many people were in and out of that stream throughout the course of that day, but yeah, awesome. Awesome. Oh, that's right. I had that one little section of the trees left to do. It was basically a sub highlight or a extra highlight, so to speak. I've got some zinc white that I'm using to basically lighten one of the colors I was using before, and I just have a couple little extra things to touch up, and then I'll be ready for my water. And I can break out the giant brush. Yeah, I like giant brushes. Still back to doing this. Like the upside down and such. Rub it with my finger a bit. Finger painting! Just had a couple of sections where the brown just kind of overlapped a little too much. Probably should have grabbed my other smaller fan brush for this, but... Oh, and Dee Dee, I didn't mention this in a while, or really to anyone. For those of you unfamiliar with Dee Dee over in the comments, she does does these streams like twice a week or something, and puts the completed videos up here to YouTube. And sometimes people send her things because she does mixed media stuff, and I have a box of stuff in the corner of my studio just waiting to send it to you once it's full. So I am going to send you a box. Like they're scraps of things, like pieces that I trimmed down and had to cut off. So they're like these multicolored strips of like mixed media stuff in them. You're going to get a box of stuff from me eventually, once it's full. Basically, it's that thing. It's a medium postal flat rate box, and as soon as it's like filled with stuff, I'm sending it to you. But I still have to. I don't want to send a half-filled box. So you can play with my scraps, I guess. Which is like the opposite of what you tell. It's like don't play with your scraps. Feed them to the dog. No, that's not what I needed to do with that crap. Yay for screwing up. It's still wet enough. You can wipe it away. Basically erasing it. Paint erasing. As long as it's still wet, you can do it. As long as the layer is dry underneath, you can do it, really. All right. That's pretty much all that needed. Just some little variations. It's going to dry semi-transparent anyway. Just kind of fixing up some of these spots. Yep, much better. All right, so I need another palette now that most of this is dry. And we can break out the crazy brush and start doing water. So just give me a few minutes. I'm gonna clean my water out too. Get some spare stuff, so I'll just be another minute or two here. So I've got a video on the channel called it's quick tip like instant brush cleaner or portable brush cleaner or something like that, and that's what I just used for that one fan brush I was using. It's acrylic flow release and soap and water, and it allows you to just kind of rinse it out real fast, and it works well. Plus I've got a bucket, an old bucket of gesso, which I dump dirty water in periodically. So basically, I've just got a new thing of water, and my brush is clean. The one brush I was using is clean, so I could just move on seamlessly without having to clean up and restart. So it helps. Many of you being late to the grid method. I was also late to the grid method. I'll be I guess the third guinea pig on that conversation. It was also part of this thing that I was talking about earlier of not listening to anyone's advice and just wanting to do it my own way. My mom always told me about the grid method. I never listened to her. Now I'm just like, yep, I'm doing this, just gridding this out. I did also another thing over on my DeviantArt page. I think it's I would normally say it's also somewhere else, but I actually don't think it is. I think it's only on my DeviantArt page. I recreated the same painting I did. That was my first painting I did when I was 10. It was an old Liquitex starter set. It came with this little booklet, and I still have the little booklet. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna paint this again. You know, just to say like, okay, here's one painting I did 14 years ago, and here's what I can do now, based on the same image. And I gridded that one too. One because it tells you to in the book. So I'm like, okay, I'll follow the book's instructions. I'll actually do this. So anyhow, so I got some more water and some more paint. And this that I want to show off, which is a mega brush, which is one of the things I picked up at my recent trip to the art store. And it's this is a Blick brush, and it's like, yeah, it's just giant. I've wanted one of these forever. I'm like, I don't know what I would do with it. I also got a round one. I really don't know what I'm going to do with the round one. But for this, when I saw this, I was like, I bet I could use this on the wall, and it would be really useful for the water. So that's what I'm using now for the water, for starting the water. The water that I've done so far, I'm going to tip this down a bit. I'm going to be sitting on the floor for the remainder of the night here. Also for the reference, the stream probably isn't going to run any more than about a half hour. So if you have any additional questions and comments, throw them in now, and I'll get to them in the next 15 minutes or so. I'm going to be sitting on the floor, and it's going to be fun. I was saying something else, and I forgot. Seems to be the trend tonight. Ben's going to start talking. He's going to get distracted and start talking about something else, and then he's going to come back to what he wanted to say before, but he won't come back to what he wanted to say before because he forgot. Man. Okay. So let's look at my reference picture. I need a lot of like a greenish brown color to start. I've got a lot of colors I grabbed. Got my quinacridone magenta. I've got a few bluish colors, cobalt green. I got a couple of these from. I wouldn't normally have a bluish green on my palette, but a friend of mine had some old paint laying around, and he's like, "Hey, I need some money. Would you mind? Like, would you be interested in any of this stuff?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take a few of these tubes of paint you have sitting around because I hate to see paint go to waste." So I picked up some of his paint and that kind of thing. So I have these two tubes of. I have a cobalt green and a cobalt turquoise, which I never touch. So when I'm blocking in sections like this, I'm like, you know what? I'll throw some of this in there. Maybe some of that in there and just start playing with different colors. And I got one of my favorite colors to paint, quinacridone magenta. So we'll do that. We'll start with that cobalt green as the base. Got still have some cerulean left on the palette. I have that mid-tone green that I was blocking in here before with the trees. Throw that in there. Some of the black that I've got. Is my red still wet? A little bit of red still wet. Yeah, start with that. Still very blue though. Where's that? Oh, no, maybe not. All right, where's that magenta? Throw that in there. This is still kind of blue. Do I have any yellow that's dry? Not really. Yellow ochre. A little bit of that's left. Green. Green's pretty dry. Let's try and get some more of that red in there. I love mixing colors. I don't know why. Just that and the sound of the palette knife to the palette. For some reason, it's just like, oh god, I love that sound. It's just awesome. I'm like inspired by that sound. All right, that's not a bad color. We'll use that as a start. Still kind of keeping my washy layers and my paint pretty loose. So actually, I'm gonna get some glazing medium. I picked some of that up recently, and I haven't used it for a lot. And I think it would be really useful for this. It also slightly makes the paint more transparent and slightly makes the drying time a little bit more as well. Or rather, just simply increase the drying time and the flow a little bit as well. That does a lot of things. I'm still very new to the product. A lot of people say that, oh, you have to use glazing medium if you're blending your acrylics. You don't, because I didn't even know you could do that until sometime last year. Was it April last year that I even really first heard about the stuff, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess that would work. People use it for portraits a lot more, and because I don't do portraits, that's probably why I've never really heard of it. So yeah, I'm gonna need a tube of red too. Hold on. So I said something before about like 4 different tubes of red. I'm eventually going to have 1 tube of red. I've spent a lot of time trying different pigments for different colors, and the one I've eventually will be settling on it is cadmium red medium. I'm currently grabbing some cadmium red hue, which is actually, it's not cadmium. And tip for anyone painting. If you see a tube of paint and it says hue on the end of the color, it means that it's a mix of 2 different colors to make a color that looks like that color. So this is cadmium red hue. There's no actual cadmium red in this. This one is a naphtha red and an alkyd yellow. So no actual cadmium red in this, and it doesn't have quite the same intensity as a cadmium, but it's, this color is very similar. So I will eventually be switching to a cadmium red medium instead of the hue, as like the cadmium red hue has sort of been my main red for a while. I've got a Parole red, which is another really, really good red, but it's also it's like a Series 8 golden color. It's really expensive. And the cadmium red medium, I think, is a little bit less. That might be a Series 6. So, yeah, fun stuff. I'm going to shut up now and paint. Get some water. Just load the brush with paint. Just go crazy. I feel like I'm Bob Ross now. We're going to have a little fun, get a little crazy here. Oh, where's my reference? I'm sitting on the floor. I got to tilt my screen now. Okay, so this was pretty much first block. So we're just going to about here with it. Yeah, roughly. That looks pretty good. Keep it thinner. A little thinner. Don't want to get rid of the black colors I had up here with my trees coming in. At least not totally. Keeping it thin, keeping it thin. And the water is already like 3 or 4 different thin layers of a different color. So with staying with the thin layers, I can just keep creating things that have a lot more depth and a lot more transparency to them. And trying not to drip too much. Keeping it wet. Like I can't let the drips reach the bottom where my tape ends. Because that would be bad. I just realized I'll have to go back and rewash this stream next time I do the water. Because I'm like, what color did I use for that base in the water? Oh, that's what I used. I'll have to do that again. Should have written some of this down. But I can always look back in the video or something. Get a little more dark of the color here. I'm going to have a little more shadows up around the water line where the water meets the rocks, because despite not having a lot of reflections, I still have some darks from where the trees are or would be reflecting into the water. But you don't get it because the light, the way the light is, you're not getting the tree reflections, but you're getting a lot of that, like right in here where I'm painting now. It's going to be a lot of like of the ripples and the blue sky reflection. Well, not a lot of blue sky reflection, but enough that you're not. It's enough that you don't see the reflection in the trees. If that makes any sense. I mean, you guys saw the reference photo before, but now that I'm doing this, you're like, wait, what? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about anymore. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. Yeah. Just, I don't know what it is. Big brushes and like large scale like this, being able to use your whole arm and just full, broad, wide strokes. I think I say that in my videos from time to time, but I never have anything to show it. This will show it. This is what I mean by using your whole arm to paint and being really excited. Looks great. I do want to do a video this year on controlled dripping, where you're using a thin or either a thinned out paint or an ink, like an acrylic ink, and either probably couldn't do a lot of controlled dripping on a wall like this, but doing it on I was losing my train of thought again. Doing it on just an actual canvas on a flat surface, because you can control the direction of the drops and drip the drops this way and then turn it sideways, and the drips will actually like do a right angle because you control the dripping a bit. I want that to be in a video as well this year, but not sure when that'll happen. That's all I can say is it's going to happen this year. These are ideas for videos I have, and I'm just going to keep talking like I have a plan, but I kind of don't. It'll be on the channel. Look forward to it. But I'm actually going right over top of that rock that I have, because that rock is not my final layer, and I have to do all the water. This is that working back to front thing before. I have to do all the water behind this rock before I touch the rock itself. So that's basically my main goal, is to get the water done up to here and then kind of do the next section of it. And I dripped on the wall. Oh man, that's a blob of paint on the wall. Shit. Oh, I gotta wipe that up before it gets too dry. There we go. There we go. Okay. Crisis averted. But yeah, so I'm still going to come in with this, with all my dark gray layers and my washy layers all the way down to the bottom. But the stuff with the little, the highlighty sky ripples, I won't touch in front of the rock, or not in front. I won't. Yeah. Yes. I will do all the ones behind the rock, then paint the rock, then do all the ripples in front of it. And there's a tree log over here too, laying in the water, which is going to be its own challenge. But yeah, this is this is a really great color. that I chose to do for this water. And especially, I put a lot of, I had a lot these yellows and the warm tones underneath, and they're showing up right now, which looks fantastic. I was kind of like, I was like, is this gonna work? I don't know. Like, but I'm so happy I did it that way, because the hard work of that has since paid off. Because you're seeing those warm tones underneath, but they're not dominant, so they're more and they're more subtle. So you probably won't see them or really notice them from far away, but because they're in there, they're gonna really create an extra layer of depth and unity to the rest of the piece. And depending on how like if I thin it, this was a little bit thinner here, I'm gonna make it a little bit thinner in this corner too, and so you'll see more of those warm tones as well. I think a lot of people tend to overthink water, and it's the same as like your tree. It's just a little bit different. It's just you work in layers, and a lot of times it's just a lot of, and you also want to like reflect the sky too much. Like, oh, the water's blue. It's not blue. It's reflecting blue. Water's clear, and you're gonna see it's like muddy underneath, and with the rocks and everything. It's like that's what you're gonna see, or all the nasty brown tones and all the highlights from the sky and everything are all just secondary. Took me a long time to realize that. I was painting blue water for, oh God, for how long? I mean, hell, I was painting perfect reflected water, even in like 2010 and a lot of those earlier evolution paintings I was talking about beginning of the night. I was doing like red fiery sky, and like the water is exactly the same as the sky, and it's like unless that water is perfectly still, and it wasn't. It was like a waterfall. It's like unless that water is perfectly still, then you're not gonna get that kind of reflection. And this, even all this water is actually pretty still in this on the lake here. But because you were able to get right down to the edge of the lake, you were able to see. You only got the reflections until like halfway through out the lake. So kind of where I'm going to right now with the rock and the halfway point. It's like all that stuff down in here. You saw all the little pebbles. You saw I think there were like little fish and tadpoles and things that you were able to see. Probably won't add those in this piece, but because I don't think they're in the original image. But I can always take a look. What are you doing, Ben? Oh, I'm laying down on the job. Can't say there are too many jobs where you actually can lay down and work like this. Well, except like certain electricians and plumbers that need to kind of literally lay down to get to where they're working. But you know what I mean. It's like, what do you do all day? Huh, I lay down. I lay down and work. Have some fun with it. I guess that's why I like painting large scale. Because you can, when I'm just staying in front of my table on the work surface and down here, it's like I'm working on a painting, sure, but how often do I really get to do this? I would say once a year I put a painting on the floor and I just paint on the floor because it's just so much fun. Oh, yeah. Yep, that looks really good. I'm happy with that. Actually going to add a little bit more of that. I have some Prussian blue in here. I'm going to add a little bit more of it in there as I get to the bottom here. Actually, because I'm doing that, I don't know why I'm doing that, because I don't need it to be blue down here. But I guess it's going to be to unify what's here to what's here. That sounds like a thing. Let's go with it. just all kind of figuring things out together. I have said this with all this talk lately about in the early part of this show about all this fantasy stuff and recognizing my love for adventure stories and things, is that I miss doing things with water. Like that's one thing that's really been. I've been doing a lot of deserts in the past year. I'm like, where's all this? I'm like, I love oceans and rivers and lakes and things. It's one like in addition to the skies that I like to paint, I love painting water. I absolutely love painting water, just because it can be so free and expressive. And it's like I think in the next few months you're going to start seeing a lot more of that, especially with videos that are going to show up on the channel, because I really want to start doing stuff with water again. I'm trying to put when I'm doing my sketches, I'm trying to get little streams kind of trickling in and sort of rushing water and little waterfalls in my work again, because I've kind of going back to my roots a little bit. It's like these were awesome ideas. Like why did I stop putting water in my paintings? Didn't fit with my fantasy and sci-fi mountains to have a little stream, but it's going to now. Oh man, I haven't been this excited. See, now I'm doing the water and I'm just excited about it. It's put me in such a good mood. I haven't been this happy about something in a while. Probably since the last time I was working on the mural. Yeah, when I worked on this the last time, it just put me in a great mood. It's a challenging, I guess because it's challenging, you know. I'm challenging myself as an artist, and so it's interesting. I'm still pushing those boundaries, always trying to do new things and push boundaries. Looks nice. All right, let's see what's happening with you guys in the chat. We're going to answer some final questions and wrap up the live show for this evening. Also, I should note, any of you guys in the comments, I'll probably be hanging out maybe with one or two of the other artists here in what I call the post show, which is I will invite you in and you can actually talk to me and don't feel embarrassed about being live or something like that. I'm all for doing that, especially with some of you maybe that are watching and either don't want to be live or are still sort of new to this live show experience and things. And you know, because I say it's the YouTube art community, and that's what it is. It should be a community. So if you feel like, you know, you want to talk to me off air or something like that, do it. Absolutely. Encourage you to do that. So anyway, back to I definitely want to do that for as my next layer, sitting here talking to myself. All right. Apology saying, yes, use the glaze. Oh. You guys are great. True red back in the day required gold to make it. I didn't know that. That's interesting. I can guarantee you in 2 weeks I'm going to talk about that in a live show like I've known it for years. So if I don't credit you, I'm sorry, but that's what I do. Dee Dee's heading out for the evening and probably already did. So see ya. Thanks for watching. In case you catch the rest of this later. Paunch, you want the property value on my home? No, you don't. I don't know what this would add. Like seriously, like I don't know if this would even add or subtract property value to this house. It would probably add. I don't think it would subtract, but still, it's one of those things. Like when we sell the house, it'll be like, oh, there's this thing here. Look at that. Someone will probably. I can almost guarantee you that someone is probably going to paint over this someday, and that doesn't bother me at all. It probably I probably should be like, oh, I want this to be here forever, but I kind of don't care. So much of this is just me having fun. If I can sit here and have fun, then it's like, yeah, do it. So yeah. All right, so I was looking at my reference. I saw a couple sections I want to put in, and they're actually reflections of some of the lighter rocks. And they're sections of sort of like, they're not white, but they're sort of like a pale yellowish gray. And you're going to get that kind of coming down in the water here. And I want to do that as my next layer. And then I'll probably call it quits for today, because I've been working on this for, it's been almost 3 hours. That's pretty good for today. I was also, it's a good thing. I can't talk about it. You'd be like, oh, you've only been working for 3 hours. That's not a lot. For me, it is. I don't usually sit and work for longer than probably 3 or 4 hours at a time on a project. That's just because I don't have the attention span. There were a few things in the past few months that I spent like 7.5 hours straight on. One of them was the mural. Another one was I did this page of 208 little drawings. I call them 208 compositions. That's over on the second channel if you guys haven't seen that. So I spent 6.5 hours straight, 7 hours total on that project too. And I was just like totally focused in doing that. I don't usually do that unless, of course, I'm doing something for, like, have a deadline for a client or something. And yeah, I'm gonna I'll sit and work on it. But if I'm just doing a piece for myself or something, I don't sit for more than 3 or 4 hours at a time. Usually, I would say 9 times out of 10, I guess 90% of the time, I don't sit and work that long. Just because that's not who I am. But yeah. So it'll be a good thing. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to say. Hey, I remembered for once. First time all night. Is that one of the other things I was doing today that still counts as probably putting 8 hours of my art in for today is I was working on a project that I can't talk about yet, but I did that for probably another 3 or 4 hours today as well. So there's that. So I did technically put in a full day. I can use my zinc white for this. Yes. Way more excited about that than I probably should be. So yellow. Just, it's another funny thing is, I don't know how well you can see this from where the camera's pointing. Probably not at all. Not really, no. But with my painting pants, the right side has way more paint on it than the left side. I think it was my aunt who saw me wearing these one day. And she's like, wow, I can definitely tell that you're right-handed. And I'm like, oh, I never noticed that. Never noticed how much more I wipe on the right than I do on the left. So it's like now, it's like when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, I should wipe this on the left because it's cleaner over here. So, yeah. All right. So we're going to take that same color we were using before with the funny glaze. I'm going to get more of it. I got a big blob of red. At this point, I just want to use up any paint that I've got left on the palette. So I'm just going to mix up some good stuff. So that's going to give me like a purplish color. Probably I'm leaning towards the red a little bit more, but that's okay. And grab that yellow. Hopefully it'll be a yellow enough. Yeah, maybe. And my zinc white, which will tint it up, but it won't turn it like pale. At least not quite as pale. Actually, I need it paler. I might have to go get the titanium white. and more yellow. See, now I'm going to have too much paint. This happens to me a lot, which is also why I have a jar of what I call used paint, which ends up being any paint left over on the palette at the end. And it goes in this little jar, and it makes a nasty brown or green paste, depending on if I put white in it or not. I have one that's specifically no white, and that's sort of a deep green color, and I have one that's white, and I've added white to, and it's like a nasty gray. So, yeah, there's that. Okay, and I might have made it too yellow now. Crap. You know what would be good is that nasty gray color I was just talking about. Okay, let me put some of these paint tubes back, and then we'll go with. I have to get my tube of white and my nasty gray, and I will be back momentarily. Oh. Where the hell did that come from? All right. Don't know if any of you heard that. I suddenly realized I had a big thing of red on my hand from paint that was somewhere, I guess, on my pants. I don't know. And I wiped it off. And it's the curse of the painter. There's always paint on my hands. Always. Doesn't matter if I wash my hands or get a shower or what, there will always be paint on my hands. All right. So it had to come off of that rag that I picked up. I've been wiping on that same rag all night. And probably not enough on my pants. Oh, another funny story here. I got a hole in my painting pants. I'm like, hey, they're officially work pants now since there's a hole in them. It's technically an inside family joke or something. And then I was like, I don't want to destroy these pants and turn them into rags yet. They're still okay. So I took a spare piece of canvas and patched the hole in the knee with a piece of canvas. So now they're back to being art pants. So I patched them with canvas. Patched denim with canvas. All right. Okay. So got some white. I'll get some nasty gray. And this should give us the color we need. Or at least pretty close anyway. Close enough that it's water and it doesn't matter. It's still too yellow. I made it too yellow and now it's terrible. Is this black still wet? Not really. I need more white again. So much wasted paint. I keep filling up that jar of gray with more gray. Oh, man. If only I could get this little section done and then I could end the live show. Oh, that's the color I needed. Yeah. Okay, so I got that and I add my glaze. Mix that in. So, pro tip, if you're mixing with a palette knife, try not to lift up too much with the knife. Want to try and keep a more continuous, unbroken chain and not lift up. Because if you're lifting up with the paint and the palette knife, you're going to create air bubbles, which is not good. Okay, So if I can just get these couple little sections done, I can see what happens. Oh my. Tharns painted a giant beaver on a wall many years ago. Owners loved it, but promptly bulldozed the house once I moved out. Wow. That is terrible. Holy crap. I think that's worse than painting over it. Wow. No, I did. Please, or Tharns, please tell me you painted the patch to match. No, I didn't. You have to hold up my pants, I guess, or stand in front of. It's actually a piece of pre-primed canvas, so my knee is white. Well, my knee is always white, but it's bluish, faded blue pants and a white section. I still might paint it. I don't know. I haven't decided. I literally just did it like 2 days ago, so I don't know if that if I'll paint it or not, or if it'll just get coated in other colors of paint as I go along. But yeah. So I'm gonna I have to stand back for this because I don't. This is the type of thing with a brush that I almost never do. Some people say, "Oh, I don't know why you hold the paintbrush so close to the handle. I can't control it." Or I think somebody said, "How do you do that? You can't control it." Like, no, that's how I control it. One of the reasons why paintbrush handles are long is so you can stand back and hold it like this, and use it like almost like you would a house painter brush. And so I'm actually going to do that right now for this bit of the water I'm working on. So this is 3, 2, and 3. So 1, 2, and 3 here. And that's actually all I need for that. I'm going to wipe that paint off and just blend it out. That might be a little too much blending out. Still got too much paint on here. Let me rinse this off. Might need to get a different brush. Let's go down first, actually. Down, down, and then out. See, I ran out of that gray color. That's the color I really need right now. Yep, this section was way too big. That's okay. I bet I can make this work. Thin it out a bit. Maybe wipe some of it off. Thinner, 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 thinner. I need a new rag. Hold on. Not even a new rag, just a dry rag, really. Oh, there we go. That's better. Yeah, just pull this out. I also forgot that I was using glaze and that it would sort of dry a little more transparently. But, okay, let's try this again. Let's grab that stuff just a little bit. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. Let's go across the rest of the piece here. Figure out where the rest of the stuff is. It's a little bit here. A little bit here. Not as much, though. Oh, the fun and joy of messing up. Basically, it's going to match a lot of these rocks. So you can kind of play with it that way. All right. I've got a smaller brush here. I'm gonna blend them out with this. Oh yeah, that's a much better choice. Just trying to use the big brush for too much stuff. Yeah, that's better. That's all I needed to do. This is also why I like to stop after a couple hours, because I tend to get rushed after that point, and I start making mistakes. And if I start making mistakes, then I know it's time to stop. I'm like, yep, I'm rushing. I'm either too excited or too tired to realize it. I just remembered I haven't recorded anything for the painting process video part of this in like an hour. So when you're watching the painting process video, you're going to notice a big gap when I'm doing the water. So sorry. Come all the way across for this stuff. Come back out. A little bit there, a little bit here. Just blend it out on some of these edges. This section right here is actually allowed to be a little bit wider. So I'm going to let that be a little wider. Tiny bits of water on the brush here. I think I was also using a spray bottle for a lot of my other layers of this water, which is also not something I normally do or recommend doing, but again, since I was trying to keep that really sort of fluidness of the water, I kind of wanted to have that there. Yep, that looks pretty good. I think we will call it a day with that. All right. So, take one last back look. One last look to you guys over in the comments. Yep, sorry to talk about tearing down houses to build flats. That's just wonderful. Sounds terrible. So yeah, I think I'm gonna clean this, close this hangout up for tonight. I've been streaming like 3 hours. It's way longer than I think I originally wanted to for this. But I am very happy that I got as much done today as I did, and a lot of things off my chest that I kind of wanted to talk about. So I'm actually good for a while. Until I finish writing the live show about craftsmanship. I'll get around to that eventually. But yeah, let me think. If there's anything else. Oh, I will probably be staying around, keeping the actual Hangout window open for a while, not the live version. Again, if any of you in the comments want to jump in and say hi in the post show, by all means, let me know in the chat, and I can get you in through adding you into the Google Plus sections and doing that way. Or if you're not comfortable tonight, don't have the energy or anything else, let me know ahead of time, and I can get you in the post show down the road. So yeah, that's about it for me today. It's gonna take me a little bit to clean my brushes out and everything like that, and clean up, but that'll be off air. So thanks everyone for watching. If you've been watching from the beginning, or if you've been here from the middle, or however, if you're watching 6 months from now and everything else, Tomorrow, I'll probably be spending the time rewatching this and taking care of time codes, because I do like to try and get those up as soon as possible after the show goes to just a regular video thing. There was something else I was saying. Oh, yes, of course. Subscribe for more videos like this, live shows, tutorials, and everything else. And this has been from TMC Films and Cinderblock Studios. Let me tilt this up. And see you guys next time. Oh, yeah, subscribe for more. I think I already said that, but you know what I mean. See ya.